friends, in this lecture series on history of India from 1750s to 1857, today we will talk about the regional kingdoms and how regional kingdoms after the decline of the Mughal Empire, they played an important role in the 18th century, how these regional kingdoms they emerged, which we talked in the earlier lecture, and now we will continue that how the importance of the Battle of Plassey was there in that context, that how it paved the way for the establishment of the British rule. So, in that context, if you want to read about the regional kingdoms, some of the readings, as I told you earlier as well, Shekhar Bandyopadhyay's book, Lakshmi Subramaniam's History of India, Christopher Beatty, Indian Society in the Making of the British Empire, and NCERT and the IGNOU material which is available. So, all this material you can refer when you want to talk about the 18th century, when you want to talk about the regional kingdoms. And if you talk about the importance of the Plassey battle, we will find that the Battle of Plassey was hardly important from the military point of view, because it was just a skirmish in that sense. And if you see the casualties, then the casualties were not very much, they were very less. In that sense, even less than 100 for the East India Company and approximately 500 on the Nawab side. So, what we find is that how Plassey put the British yoke on Bengal. So, that was an important consideration in the context of the Battle of Plassey, that how the Battle of Plassey it brought the East India Company into the picture of India, how East India Company was able to secure more and more areas for itself, how over a period of time East India Company was able to secure all the resources which were available to it in the different states, where it was able to secure not only the resources but as well as the revenue from 1765 onwards. So, from that perspective we will find that the Battle of Plassey it opened some kind of an opening for the East India Company. And if you see the Plassey plunder, in that particular sense, the English Navy and the English Army, they were paid £2,75,000 each during that time. And what we also find is that Mir Jafar was paid 22.5 million between 1757 to 1760. And if you see the Clive's personal Jagir, it was also more than near approximately 35,000 pounds. So, what we find is that if you see the Plassey plunder, then Plassey plunder was enormous, because this was the kind of the huge money which was paid by the Nawab Mir Jafar to the East India Company and to the servants of the East India Company, either in the personal capacity or in institutional manner, how it was paid to the East India Company, and how East India Company was also linked to the British Crown, because British Crown was taking some kind of money from East India Company in a different way. And from 1660s onwards, this kind of a relationship could also be seen, where East India Company and the British Crown they were also interlinked. If you also see the importance of the Battle of Plassey, we will find that how the resources they helped the British to conquer the wars of Deccan and extend influence over northern India. We also find that the East India Company it monopolized trade and commerce in Bengal, and other companies they lost. So, that was the kind of a situation which was created with the importance in the context of the importance of the Battle of Plassey, that how these kind of resources which were available to the British after the Battle of Plassey, and these resources they were being used by the East India Company to extend its influence in other parts of India. The various wars which East India Company fought, they were being financed by the East India Company by utilizing the revenue or resources from Bengal, especially after 1765, when it secured the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. What we also see is that how there was some kind of a conflict which was going on between the East India Company and the other European companies, and the three battles in Carnatic which were fought by the British with the French company, and how French company it was in a way thrown it was in a way thrown out by the English East India Company, and after that we find that French were not able to get any kind of foothold in India, and after the three Carnatic wars. So if you see the situation in the context of the consequences of Palasi, that how it shaped the British rule and the mode of cultural contact, the kind of interaction between the English and the Indians in the context of culture, and how there was a change in the character of the company. Now East India Company, it became a commercial cum military cum political body. So we find that after the battle of Palasi and after the battle of Buxar, both these battles, how British they entrenched themselves in India, and after entrenching themselves, how they were also connected in the cultural context as well. And over a period of time we see how English as a medium of instruction for education was introduced in India, how British they came in contact with the Indians, how they tried to use the Indian scriptures etc. for their own learning, how they tried to use the various kinds of surveys etc. which they conducted in the Indian context so as to improve their knowledge about India, and they will utilize this kind of a knowledge which is available to them so as to govern Indians. This has been also seen in the context of the idea of Orientalism, which Edward Said has talked about, that how British they use such kind of a knowledge to restructure the society in such a way so that they can rule India in some way. And if you see the character of the East India Company, that it came as a commercial body, and over a period of time it also used its military and the political affiliation which was there, or military as well as the political clout which it developed over a period of time. And thereafter we see when Mir Jafar he becomes the Nawab, and in 1760 Mir Jafar is also removed by the company, because he was not able to pay the kind of money which was demanded by the East India Company. He could not sustain himself because he did not have the enough resources with him, and thereafter company entered into an alliance with Mir Qasim in 1760, and the territories and the money were paid to East India Company, which East India Company demanded, and Mir Jafar he was pensioned off that way. So we find that company was not concerned with who was ruling Bengal. Company was more concerned with the kind of money which it could generate for itself. So when Mir Jafar was not able to satisfy their demands in terms of money, in terms of resources, then they were ready to part away with Mir Jafar, and they sided with Mir Qasim, who was the son-in-law of Mir Jafar and who was ready to give them better terms. So they wanted to in a way side with Mir Qasim, in that sense that they will get some kind of a more money, some kind of more privileges from Mir Qasim. Mir Qasim in that context was a good administrator, and he transferred his capital to Munger, which was comparatively a distance from Calcutta, so that they are not in direct contact with the East India Company. He should not in a way get some kind of a direct contact with the East India Company which was there. The officials were there in Calcutta, and he wanted to modernize and he wanted to reorganize the army on the European lines, that how manufacture of guns at Munger was started, how additional taxes they were also being levied. So Mir Qasim had this kind of a desire to bring about change within the society. He was a good administrator in that sense, so that he could utilize those resources for the betterment of Bengal. And Mir Qasim also had some kind of a dispute with the East India Company, and it was in the context on the issue of the interlopers, who were the private or English European merchants. And we find that these interlopers, they were in a way weakening the structure, political structure or political authority of Nawab, and the methods of the English traders and their gumashtas were also a growing menace to his political authority. So, what we find is that how Mir Qasim, when he came to dispute with the East India Company, so that dispute was in the context of the private trade by the servants of the East India Company, and how these servants, when they were carrying out such kind of a trade, so this was causing a lot of loss of revenue demand, in that sense that the taxes which were to be secured by the Nawab, they will not be secured by him when the servants will engage in their own personal trade. So, apart from the trade of the East India Company, when these servants, they will carry on their personal trade, then it will become some sort of a problem for the Nawab, and it happened as well. So, Nawab in a way talked about or objected on the misuse of East India Company's dastak. Dastak was a pass which was given by the President of the Calcutta Council, and which exempted goods specified from the payment of duties. So, what we see is that East India Company, it was the kind of dastak or the passes which were given to the East India Company to carry out the free trade. They were being misused by the servants of the East India Company, and Nawab was not at all happy that how the misuse of the dastak was creating problems for Nawab. And this kind of a private trade which was being carried out during this time was also seen in the framework that how these dastaks, they were being sold by the servants of the East India Company to the Indian merchants. So, Nawab was not only getting any kind of taxes from the trade of carried out by the East India Company, Nawab was also not getting any kind of a money which from the trade which was carried out by the servants of the East India Company, because the servants, they were misusing the dastaks for their own personal trade. And at the same time, when these servants, they were selling these dastaks to the Indian merchants, then they were also losing out on the taxes from that perspective. So, Nawab in a way was at a loss, Nawab was at a disadvantage from that perspective. And at the same time, we also find that the East India Company servants, they were also very, very arrogant towards the Nawab. They were not carrying out the kind of authority which Nawab had. And East India Company servants, they were also using a lot of coercion in that sense, because they wanted to buy at very cheap rates. So, in that sense, they were trying to coerce the merchants, they were trying to coerce the producers of the goods, so that they can purchase them at a very cheap price. And if we see the effects of the East India Company servants' behavior, then we find that it reduced the Nawab's revenue, it diminished the Nawab's authority, and it showed the position of the Indian subjects in a very helpless manner. So, if you see the situation of or the kind of impact the servants' behavior created in India, then we will find that apart from the economic loss to the Nawab in the context of the loss of taxes or revenue to him, we also find that the authority of the Nawab was also compromised, and the Indian subjects, they were helpless in that manner, because the way they were being treated by the servants of the East India Company. And if you see the situation of Mir Qasim, we find that Mir Qasim, if you see the slide, you will find that the Nawabs, they admitted the English traders to a share in the inland trade, and provided they paid 9% duty on the prime cost of commodities. So, there was some kind of a what we see that some kind of a agreement in that context, that Nawab was ready to share with the English traders, and but he was also demanding some kind of a duty, so so that this kind of an agreement could be carried out. But he was also he also went an agreement in that context that Nawab will provide Nawab will have the right to grant dastak. He will be the only authority who will grant the dastak to the officials of the East India Company. But the Calcutta Council, it rejected the agreement, and they wanted to have some kind of a clash with Qasim. This was not accepted, and in return what Mir Qasim did, he abolished all the inland duties, and Indian merchants, they became same as English ones. So we find that Mir Qasim, he realized the kind of threat which was posed by the East India Company and its officials. He also realized that Indian merchants, Indian traders, they were at a loss, and now he realized that these Indian merchants and traders, they should also be given the kind of benefit which was available to the East India Company. So he now abolished all the inland duties, that there will not be any kind of duties on any of the goods. So now the Indian traders were at par with the British traders, and this was not liked by the East India Company, because if any kind of a duty will not be levied on the Indian traders, then Indian traders will be able to compete with them. So any kind of a privilege which was available to them, they did not want any such kind of a thing should be available to the Indian merchants, and this was not at all liked by the East India Company. Thereafter we see that the Battle of Buxar, which was fought between the three powers, including Mir Qasim and then Nawab of Awadh and Shah Alam II was the Mughal emperor, and all of them, they got together and they fought with the British, and they lost the battle. The Battle of Buxar was lost by them when they fought against the British, and Battle of Buxar was a comparatively more decisive battle, and it established the British position in India, and it lay upon control of India in the British hands. So if we see the importance of Battle of Buxar and the Battle of Plassey, we will find that Battle of Buxar was a more decisive battle in comparison to the Battle of Plassey, because Battle of Plassey was not fought that way, it was just more of a conspiracy rather than a battle. But in the Battle of Buxar, all the three powers, they came into conflict or in clash with the British, and after the Battle of Buxar we find that British, they were able to secure the revenues for themselves, and it was comparatively more decisive battle, and how Clive, he could secure the second governorship of Bengal during this time, and various treaties were also signed. Two treaties of Allahabad, they were signed between the British as well as the by the East India Company, British East India Company. One was with Awadh and the other was with Shah Alam, and we find that again the exchange of money takes place in that sense, that the payment of money to the East India Company as war indemnity was done, and the subordinate position of Awadh and Shah Alam too could also be seen. And in this, after this battle, we also find that Shah Alam too, he granted a farman by which the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa was given to the East India Company, and they became political players, and they also has access to the revenue for investment. So we find that by this farman of the granting of the Diwani rights or the revenue rights, and the right to collection of revenue is an important right in that sense that it not only is providing money to the East India Company, but at the same time also showing them to be some sort of a political player, because the right to collection of revenue is always with the political ruler of that particular region. So giving this kind of a right to the East India Company in a way gave them this kind of an authority where they were accepted as some sort of a political power. And this money was later used by the East India Company for making investments in the sense that the kind of trade with which they got engaged, which they were carrying out in India, and for that trade they got a lot of bullion from Europe. But when they were securing the land revenue or the Diwani in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, which was enormous, now they no longer needed that kind of a bullion from their own country. Now they can utilize this revenue for making investments or purchases of the Indian products, and these Indian products, they could be sold to the other markets of the world. Many of these products, they were sent to China, they were sent to even the European countries. So they were in a way, it was in a way big gain for the East India Company, because now they did not have to bring any money to India, because the money which was earlier they were bringing to India, and India was becoming some sort of a sink of the world, because a lot of gold and silver, a lot of bullion was coming to India, and this kind of a thing will stop, and it stopped over a period of time after 1765, when British they were able to secure the revenue of the Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. So we find that this Farman, in a way, it created Awadh as a buffer state, and the emperor, he became a pensioner, he became some sort of a rubber stamp, and the settlement of Bengal was the dual settlement, or the diarchy, which we see that East India Company it acquired the real power, while the responsibility for administration was on the Nawab, and East India Company now got the Diwani functions. So what we find because of this Farman was that East India Company was able to secure the financial resources for themselves when they secured the Diwani, but at the same time they were not in any way directly connected with the administrative sphere, which was the Nizamat. So Diwani and Nizamat, both these functions, they were with different people, and when the Nawab of Bengal was given this authority for the Nizamat functions, then two deputy Nawabs they were also in a way established there, and this diarchy which you find, or the dual government which you find, where you will find that deputy subedars, they were being in a way appointed by the East India Company. So East India Company it was having all sorts of privileges, it was having all sorts of finances for itself, but it did not have any kind of revenue with itself, and under this system we will find that the East India Company it had all the power in that sense, and on the other hand they will not have any kind of responsibility with themselves. And this kind of a justification, for example, you see on the screen as well that Lord Clive he justifies diarchy or the dual rule in Bengal, and he says that the open assumption of power by the East India Company might unite the Indian princes. So that was one reason which he gives. Other Europeans may not pay the duties on trade to the East India Company, could create complications in England's diplomatic relations with European powers. So these were some of the justifications which were forwarded by Clive, that why East India Company was not engaging in open assumption of power. If they will openly assume power in Bengal, then other Europeans may not pay duties to them. And other kinds of justifications, that no trained personnel were available at the East India Company's disposal to carry out the administration, Indian practices, languages, customs, all these kind of things. So East India Company wanted that trained personnel of India, those who are available in India, they should carry out the administrative task, and the revenue function should be with them. And they also felt that British Parliament might also interfere if they engage in the direct assumption of power in India. So if you see the effects of the dual system or the dual rule which was established in Bengal, we will find that it created administrative breakdown in that sense that a lot of corruption, anarchy, this kind of a situation emerged. Decline of agriculture, where you will find that misery, and in 1770s a lot of famines in India, and trade and commerce was disrupted, and the ruination of industry and skill. Silk fabrics, they were competing with the fabrics which were manufactured in Britain. So Indian fabrics, they had to compete with the fabrics which were made in Britain on machines. So by which we find that deindustrialization takes place. So these were some of the effects which were beginning to be seen in the context of the dual rule in Bengal, and how the monopolization of the trade by the East India Company could also be seen. The prices of the raw materials, they were also going up, and it was some sort of a moral degradation, no incentive to work, society was static and decay. So British East India Company, by imposing the dual rule in Bengal, in a way created such kind of conditions where company became more and more dominant, where we find that the raw materials they were not easily available, they became very costly. So, if you tend to see the East India Company, if you tend to see the kind of role it was played by the East India Company, so it was more and more concerned in terms of acquiring revenue for themselves, for their own self interest. And some of the historians like P.J. Marshall, he says that British Empire was by an accident. It was not a conscious and a consistent policy for conquest, and it only focused on the given conditions. Similarly, Christopher Bailey, he talks about the imperial expansion. It was motivated by the fiscal and military needs of the East India Company rather than interest of the trade. But all these kind of ideas, when you tend to see, they seem without any kind of a reason. If you see the relationship between the East India Company and the Crown, that both of them, it was mutually beneficial in that context. To see the idea of P.J. Marshall as that the empire only was created because of an accident, it was not any kind of a conscious motive, then we will find that how Crown as well as the East India Company, both of them from 17th century onwards, how they were linked to each other, how they were getting benefited from each other. So, we just cannot say that the East India Company was working on its own in India. They were not getting any support from the British Crown or from the British Parliament. At all times they were getting all sorts of support from the British Parliament, and it cannot be said that it was just an accident. Rather, it was over a period of time, it was all premeditated, and all of them, it was also a result of the British greed and the desire to exploit the resources of other regions for their own self development or for their own self interest. So, I would like to end the discussion here. Thank you very much.